Good Saturday morning. Welcome to another weekend wrap up on Chevrolet Now. I'm your temporary host, Josh Blevins, sitting here with Mr. Bill Anderson while David Thomas is on assignment at Buc-ee's somewhere.
Right.
Somewhere he's getting some brisket right now.
I bet he is too.
Yeah, headed back in this direction, though. He'll be back with us next week, but this week you just stuck with the two of us. We've got a few interesting items we're going to talk about today, Bill. I think some are going to interest you, some are going to interest me. Hopefully they interest the people at home. I'll just real quick before we go to our first commercial, I'll just give you a rundown. We got three big items on the agenda today. We're going to talk about Tennessee Downs and B-Cud. This is the one I had the most questions about this week going into, as I went around town to my different breakfasts and meetings, and got a lot of questions about that one. We're going to talk about a possible county wastewater board. I think this one you're going to have a few ideas on this one. You might have a few ideas. And then we had a city planning commission meeting. We're going to talk about a couple items on that. But before we get into that, let's hear from a couple sponsors, Mr. Dennis Young and Leverett's Power Washing, and we'll be right back.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back to the weekend wrap-up. I'm here with Mr. Bill Anderson. I'm Josh Blevins. We've got a few things to talk about that went on this week. Real quick, before we get into our three hot topics of the week, just one that the other item I get asked about all the time, what in the world's going on at Uncle Nearest? So if you go ahead and just scroll back on our Facebook feed, we had an article at the beginning of the week. The Weavers hired a new attorney, and he seems to be a little bit of a firebrand. He came out firing at the bank and called them all kinds of things and made a lot of accusations against Farm Credit as far as defaming them and, costing them money and all these other kinds of things. So they actually had 12 different court filings on one day. The bank came back and started to rebut some of it, but they filed it all under seal. So we don't know what the bank had to say about it. So we can't really talk about that because we don't have it to look at. But we'll keep watching the court filings. And
Josh, bottom line is you don't pay your bills, you get in trouble.
They're in trouble. They're not. Yeah. A lot of bills didn't get paid. Besides the bank.
And it's not just the bank. I mean, there's some small businesses here that I feel for that are owed $20, $30, $40, $50, $80,000.
Right. Yeah,
that aren't a big bank
but they feel that. Yeah,
they're a small business. Small business.
Yeah, and the city and the county are going to be okay, but they're owed money too. There's property taxes owed. There's taxes to the state owed. There's a lot of money owed there.
How many? I mean, you may not know the answer to this, but how many years are we talking about on property taxes? Was it 1 year or two?
Just 1 year. Okay. Last year's taxes were not paid. Yeah, the 2024 taxes, which are well past due at this point.
And what would happen if I didn't pay my taxes for a year?
Well, same thing that's happened to them. They'll go to the clerk and master once it hits that point, which is coming up in a couple months. You and I will both vote on that.
Well, there's a pattern here of owing money. It's not just the bank. That's the point I'm making. It is a pattern of not paying your bills.
Yeah, a lot of people owed a lot of money in different places. So we'll keep on top of that, but that's not the story of the week. The one that I got the most questions on, and I want to thank a friend who reached out who will stay anonymous that let me know from, as you know, I came from Nashville, and they reached out at the beginning of the week and said, hey, your Bedford County people are up here in Nashville fighting amongst themselves. And I said, oh, really? And so I did a little digging, and actually a week ago Friday, at the comptroller's office. This is a Tennessee utility board that's run by the comptroller's office. There was a hearing, and Tennessee Downs raised some complaints about Bedford County Utility District.
Okay.
And it wasn't just Tennessee Downs at this hearing, though. Tennessee Downs had an attorney there, as you would expect. Bedford County Utility District had an attorney there. But what I didn't realize till I watched the 32-minute video is a couple of your compadres. We had County Commissioner Mark Thomas and County Commissioner Greg Vick also went up to Nashville and had some things to say about Bedford County Utility District. The actual complaint, there's an article about this as well on our Facebook, but it's a 9-point complaint. Some of their accusations about BCUD is they're refusing or denying sewer service, which that's an odd one to me because BCUD doesn't have a sewage treatment plant.
You don't. You would have to go through Shelbyville Power, correct?
To get sewer service.
BCUD couldn't do this if they wanted to do it. What's the complaint? They don't offer sewer.
That's like walking into a gun shop and saying, "Will you fix my watch?"
Right.
I mean, that's not their business. So I don't understand that complaint. It is on the list. We've got the complaint here. Confusing and non-transparent rate structure. There was a 102-page packet with this. They had given them their rates. I read through it. I understood the rates, but maybe they were confused. Inadequate and unreliable water pressure. This one is confusing to me because they don't have water yet. They haven't actually gotten utilities.
So how do you know what the water pressure is, and how do you know if it's adequate or inadequate?
Seems questionable there.
However, let me go back to this too, just real quick.
Yeah,
that's a problem with developing all this stuff out that way is the water issue, and we just keep wanting to develop things. And is there water? Is there water pressure? We got to think about all these things, but we keep just putting stuff out there.
Putting it out there, yeah. Inability to provide natural gas. They actually gave them
on BCUD.
Well, no, BCUD has gas,
and
they gave them, and I've got here sitting in my little packet of information. They gave them. No, it's through BCUD. BCUD has actually my neighborhood. We're serviced by BCUD. They gave them a price to deliver gas to this property. The price is in my magic pile of paperwork here. Probable costs. They gave them a quote: $1.767 million construction costs plus a $265,000 administrative fee. So, on my calculator, about for $2 million, they'll get them gas. So that's kind of normal in utilities. It doesn't go to their property now. They need an extension. So, failure to.
How should BCUD pay for that?
The developer should pay for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Failure to provide unbundled completion costs. And then unreasonable fees and charges. Those are just kind of, we'll get into those a little later. Let's talk, like I said, we had two people from Bedford County go up to Nashville. They spoke on this. We brought a couple clips because we like to do that. Let's hear from our friend, Fire Chief Mark Thomas. Let's hear what he had to say, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
But more importantly, has been willing to testify and present to you today is Chief Thomas, who is the fire chief of Bedford County and has been so for decades. And he has had the same issues with fire prevention, fire loss issues, and even safety concerns that he has for fire suppression throughout this area and all service areas of Bedford County Utility District.
We do experience several issues with fire hydrant locations. We've made requests which have been denied. There is a water flow issue, so we carry portable pumps where we get water out of creeks, swimming pools, wherever we can get water. We've also asked for fire hydrants to be installed in one of our new fire stations, which is on a 2-lane highway, 64 West. We made a deposit and then was later told that was denied. We were willing to pay for all the costs to get the fire hydrant installed in a parking lot instead of on a 2-lane highway to get our fire trucks off the main highway. Like I say, we were denied that.
Buddy Coots, who was introduced as the engineer, sent an email to my client, Mr. Boquelin, stating that BCUD does not provide fire protection flows within its service area.
I also agree that a utility's responsibility isn't fire suppression. A utility's responsibility is providing utility service, and fire suppression, as far as I'm concerned, under the Tennessee Code or any standards really adopted by utilities, fire suppression is not the priority. So if we were to go based on that argument, I would say that it doesn't really look good for the complainant if we're basing this solely off of fire suppression.
All right, that was our fire chief, Mr. Mark Thomas, and that voice you heard at the end didn't have a caption on that. Mm-hmm. That was Mr. Greg Colonna from the Comptroller's office, and his point he made there, which seemed like a pretty solid point, he works for the Comptroller, he hopefully knows what he's talking about, is that utilities in the state of Tennessee don't have a statutory requirement to provide fire protection, which kind of moots the entire argument
Well,
about the fire
If
protection.
you did, you would have to have it in War Trace, Beech Grove, and everywhere out in the county, and that's
Right.
just not.
Yeah. So
It's-
that part of the fight seems like the comptroller is already making a little bit of a statement there.
Right.
So I want to go back to the first part though. Mark's point about
Mhm.
the fire hydrants. I got a little story to go with this. Friday morning, I'm sitting at my Friday morning breakfast as I normally do in Decent, minding my own business, hanging out with a couple fine folks from the county of Bedford County. Not going to mention any names, but we were talking about BCUD as everybody did this week. And lo and behold, a gentleman walks over, puts his chair down, and said, "Hey, you're talking about BCUD. Let me give you some information." And he introduced himself, and I'm also not going to mention his name, but he is, we'll say he's at the top of the food chain at BCUD. He knows
Okay.
what he's talking about.
Right.
So he is, he's with BCUD. He said, we're upset. He said, we got blindsided by this hearing. And to the point of the fire chief, he said, that story about the fire hydrant, and this is BCUD's side of the story.
Right.
There's two sides to all these
Always
stories,
is.
always two sides. He said that fire hydrant that they're talking about on 64, he said it's on the other side of the street from the fire station. We would have had to bore under the road. We
Right.
would have had to run all this line. And he said nobody offered to pay for it. He
Okay.
said if they would have offered to pay for it, we would have been happy to put the fire hydrant where they
Okay.
wanted. So the BCUD side of it is there's a different side to the story about the fire hydrant. He told us a lot of other things that we'll get into as we get further into the discussion. Some of the stuff about the unbundled completion costs. He said Tennessee Downs first approached them ever in September of this year, 1 month ago, and wanted to appear at their meeting and get some information about utilities. He said they asked them for a drawing of what they need on the property. As you know, I sit on the planning commission. I've seen a lot of these. Normally you get something from an engineer that's about yay big,
Right.
and it's about 20 pages, and it shows, utility maps and this and that. It's done by an engineer. It's professional. They handed them a single sheet sketch, which they provided me a copy of here. This is all they had to work off. That's the entirety of what's, known about the project so far. So he said they asked us for an itemized cost of what it's going to cost to put
There's
the
no way you can
water.
do that off this.
He said, you can't do that from
No.
that drawing. He said, there's no way.
No.
There's no measurements. That's not done by an engineer. That's a concept.
How bad that is, guys. I don't know if
It's
you
a
can see it on here or
concept.
not.
Now, the one that he got
know,
is a little bigger in
I
color.
know,
This
but
is not
still,
black and
there's no
white,
way
but
to
it's,
do that.
there's no way to get. But they did, and
But
we went over one of them earlier. They gave them a $2 million price to get the water there, $2 million to get the gas there. But he said beyond that, we can't give them an accurate. He said, where on that do we know how many taps, where they're at, where the line's going to go, where the roads, do we have public access? Do we have private access? He said, none of that is known. So again, so they came to them in September. They asked them at their meeting. He said, we've been over backwards to give them what information we can. He said, next thing we hear in October is they filed a complaint with the comptroller. He said, we were given 1 week notice that this meeting was
So
happening.
this hasn't been going on for 2 years, and
3 years. He
4
said,
years.
and again, this is
The
BCUD's
other
side of the
side.
story.
Right.
He said we were given 1 week's notice that the meeting was even happening.
Right.
We were given 1 day's notice to present any kind of a written rebuttal to this through an attorney. BCUD had to go out and hire outside counsel who spoke in this. If you go to if you look at the caption on the video there, we'll put a link in the comments too. It was a 32-minute hearing. BCUD brought an attorney. We talked about all that. So, but they were given no time to prepare any kind of defense to this. And he said they just feel like they've been thrown under the bus, on, hey, you're not providing utilities. He said, and again, BCUD's story, they're doing a bunch of pump station work up on 231. He said, honestly, we could flood this property with water here very soon. He said, way more than they need. He said, we're not, quote unquote, certified on fire protection, but he said, we can give them all the water they ever want at that location fairly shortly with the work that's being done. And they just feel like, they're getting a raw end of the deal here.
All right. My question to you is go back to my good friend Mark Thomas, and he's there. Obviously, it's the fire chief, not a
Right.
commissioner. It sounded like. And I understand
Correct.
that.
Yeah, he did not
However-
identify himself as a county
And he
commissioner.
is the
just
fire
said
chief.
he's
Now,
the
our
fire
question
chief.
is,
Yeah.
I understand what he's saying about 64, My question is, what does the fire chief have to do with Tennessee Downs at all?
If you watch the introduction of his statement, which we didn't put it in the clip there, he does say, I didn't expect to be called up to speak here. He said, I don't have prepared remarks. But however,
Looks like
somehow he ended up in the room in Nashville.
These are two separate issues, though, of what he was talking about on 64 and whatnot
versus
Tennessee Downs here.
Yeah. Yeah. And we heard from the comptroller who said the fire thing is not a thing anyway. So
I didn't think it was.
Yeah. So that was one of our commissioners. Now let's get to the other one.
Okay.
Your buddy Greg Vick also appeared at this meeting, and he had some things to say. We're going to hear from them, and then we're going to have a little discussion on what he has to say as well. This is Commissioner Greg Vick up in Nashville a week ago Friday.
Today, I would ask that you listen to Mr. Gregory Vick, who's been a county commissioner for decades in this area and has come up against these problems on numerous occasions.
Good morning, Board. I'm Greg Vick. I'm a Bedford County Commissioner. I represent the district in which Tennessee Downs is going to locate. This commitment to our community is the single largest investment in the history of Bedford County, $215 million. And I'm here to fully support their efforts and the contributions they're going to make. And for the record, I am not here to criticize Bedford County Utility District. Unfortunately, BCUT has historically demonstrated limited interest in partnering with local government to shape a unified vision for our future. The tendency to plan in isolation, prioritize internal interests over regional collaborations, threaten not only its own operational capacity, but also the county's overall ability to create and attract investments and improve our quality of life. While Tennessee Downs initiated this particular action against BCUT, the underlying problem extends far beyond the $215 million development. A long history of similar disputes has produced unfortunate countywide perception, and it's very unfortunate that BCUT is being anti-growth, anti-progress, and particularly in cases involving major civic and institutional economic growth around our 231 corridor.
Do we know what the county mayor's stance is on this?
I have not spoken with him directly. I've only spoken with Mr. Vick as a representative of the county commission. I mean, we can tell that there's animosity locally. Between the county, between the utility district, between everyone at play.
All right.
Wow.
Before we get into the actual meat of what Mr. Vick spoke about, the big concern I've heard from several other county commissioners.
Can we start right here, though? Yeah. He's been a county commissioner for decades.
You've been here for a while. Has he been a county commissioner?
He's not been there as long as Bill Anderson's been there. I've been here. This is my third term. It's his second term. That's not decades.
Okay.
I'll just start on the technicality.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. That's why we put it in
right
there. But however, back to the and I've heard from several county commissioners. You are a county commissioner. Right. Were you aware that he was up there representing the county commission?
I was not even aware that there was an issue with BCUT. I've never heard a complaint about him. I have no issues with BCUT whatsoever. And BCUT, I'm going to remind everybody, is not a county entity. Just like Shelbyville Power is not run by the council. They're separate to themselves.
Correct. Yeah, we should have clarified that at the beginning.
Let's clarify that up front.
Bedford County's in the name, but
they are not anything to do with the county government, just like Shelbyville Power, as far as I know, is an entity that's not run by the city council.
Correct. Other than at least with Shelbyville Power, if we want to go down that rabbit hole real quick, is the council does appoint their board members. Whereas at BCUT, there is no.
Those are elected.
They're by the customers.
By the customers elect their board members.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was, and I've talked to maybe a half dozen other county commissioners, and when they saw what had gone on up there, they had a little bit of heartburn about the fact that now Mr. Vick did not say, hey, I'm here representing the commission, but you heard the committee kind of got the feeling.
It sounded to me like he was representing that partnership more than the county commission. Is he not on that partnership board still?
No, he is not on the partnership board.
He's not on the partnership board, so he was representing the county.
That was at least what I
thought he was on the partnership. That sounds like the partnership is the one with the argument with BCUT, not the Bedford County, the county commission.
Right. Yeah. So it was, I've heard from several county commissioners, they felt like he kind of, there was a fine line there and he may have stepped over it a little bit. As far as what he's actually saying about the big investment and BCUT and the issues on 231, I've heard the same things he's saying. I mean, you've probably heard him too over the years. There is a group in the government that feels like BCUT is doing a poor job on 231. Whether they are or not, I don't know. That's out of my area of expertise. I will say from the conversation I had Friday morning with the gentleman from BCUT they feel like they're putting millions of dollars in there and they're
Sure.
putting in a lot of effort, and they think they can take care of what's going on there on 231. The question now is, I guess, the comptroller is going to look into this deeper. That the outcome of this meeting was no action. They voted to take no action. Even they realized that BCUD didn't get adequate notice for the meeting. There's a lot of things that didn't happen correctly in the scheme of
Boy,
things.
somebody had a stick to get it pushed through this fast too, didn't they?
That actually, my BCUD gentleman said he felt like this came from higher than the comptroller's office. He felt like this was somebody at the state has, they also, I mean, to go down that hole, they feel like this Tennessee Downs was just a convenient way for them to go down this rabbit trail.
I
So
think
they
that's
feel
what it
like
sounds
they
like to
just
me,
grabbed
too.
hold of this and are running with it. So
There's probably a whole lot more they won't do other than just this Tennessee Downs, and they're using the disguise of it to me.
right. Yeah, I think, the idea is they want to possibly take over the utilities on 231, take it back from BCUD. So, which I think that's going to be that seems to be the fight. I
Then what
think
would you do with it?
they would try
Annex
to
it into the city of
I think
Shelbyville and
they
try
would
to get
run
Shelbyville
it
power
in.
to take
I
it?
think they would try to get them to run all the
Or
way
is
up
this an attempt to
231.
take over BCUD? Like in Lewisburg, they took over the water plant over there.
That could be another possible
That could be another.
direction.
I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
rule anything out.
Yeah, anything could be going on. Obviously, we'll stay on top of it. We'll see. They've got a December hearing that's supposed to be a follow-up. The comptroller is actually supposed to come down and meet with all parties. I think the biggest thing that may have happened here, at least some of this sounds like, is a lot of what goes on here. You heard them say there. It sounds like they said something about those people down there, are in, can't get along with each other. I think there's a lot of bad communication here. I think, and that was what the gentleman from BCUD said. He said nobody came and talked to us and gave us time to work through this. I mean, this was just dropped on them out of left field.
Commissioners I've talked to, we had no knowledge that any
Yeah.
of this was going on at all. In fact, I didn't until you said something to me. That was the first I'd heard of it.
Yeah,
It hadn't been for
I
this.
think it's like a lot of stuff. You just
Yeah.
get everybody in the same room,
Right.
Have a meal, talk through some of this. Some of this stuff could just be worked out instead of dragging it up to Nashville and, having the comptroller.
I've heard
step
no
in.
complaints.
So
okay.
Somebody's got some complaints.
Mhm.
So we'll definitely stay on top of that and see what direction it goes. And we'll be following the December
Right.
hearing. There will be a lot of meetings in between, I would expect. So
Mhm.
I'll try to get some more information from
Okay.
the BCUD side of things. Actually, I spoke with a gentleman at the newspaper here. He's trying to get information from the Tennessee Downs attorney as well. So I think there'll be a lot more to come out on this. So we'll see what direction it goes. With that, let's go to Tuesday evening. This is one that I know has interested you
It
since
does.
last week. You want to talk about it?
Yep.
Let's lead into this. So there was county committee meetings. You sit on one of those
I do.
committees, the what is it?
Rules and
and
Legislative. I'm
There
the
was a
co-chair.
discussion
Vice chair.
there about wastewater in Bedford County. This is one that's been a hot button issue going back 6 to 8 months. Let's hear the introduction from our friend Linda Yockey about what the county commission is possibly going to do, and then let's get your take on it, because
All
I
right.
bet you've got a take.
got a
on
take.
it. So let's hear from Linda Yockey first, and then we'll talk about it.
Back in April or so, you all asked the planning commission to come up with a solution to I believe, Mr. Chairman, they're supposed to be called decentralized wastewater system or alternative wastewater systems. So I wanted to tell you where we are. There's two things involved in this. One is that the planning commission itself can handle a lot of the requirements or regulations in the subdivision regs that we have. And so that's an ongoing thing. Hopefully we can get that finished up this next Tuesday night. The second part of it is a board, and the planning commission voted last month to form this board, and I gave the minutes to Commissioner Vic if he wants to read the first 2 or 3 sentences of it, just so you know I'm not here by myself.
Sure. To form a board through the county commission to oversee alternative wastewater system is now requiring any subdivision, if they're putting in the alternative wastewater system, to contract with the utility district that's going to operate that. And then you're going to finalize a report, get back to the county commission, report what the guidelines are for that.
Right.
And then
All right. So this started back in the spring, I
Uh-huh.
guess, as a private act that was going to bring a wastewater authority to Bedford County.
Right.
And that didn't go over well at
No,
the
I
county
think it-
commission. It
I'm going to say it
failed.
was
I don't even know
13
if it came to,
I think
did it come to a
it
vote?
came to a vote.
Yeah.
I believe it was 13-5 or 12-6, but I believe it was 12 at least. It was a 2/3 majority voted
Right.
no.
Voted no.
Uh-huh.
And now we're back again because
Well-
as you and I talked about last week,
Mhm.
we've had a subdivision get approved by the planning commission, Longview.
Yep.
And they're bringing in a DENIS to put in
Uh-huh.
a step
And
system
that's
in
it.
Bedford
You don't
County.
have the clip, but anybody
Yeah.
will go to YouTube and watch the Bedford County Rules and Legislative Community meeting, and you can see I brought all this up.
Yeah.
We went back and forth on this one, but back in April, I had made a motion or a bill that I had up there, and I wanted to not do step septic systems for other reasons of failures and whatnot in companies like Adidas, to be honest with you.
Right.
So I have this big meeting. We're sitting in the courthouse. You can probably YouTube this meeting up. And I was told this. Why in the world would you not want to use Consolidated, who is the greatest of the greatest right up the road?
Right.
The inference in that meeting that made me feel better was we were going to use Consolidated, and they had a deal with them. Consolidated as all of Rutherford counties.
Right.
What happened to that? Then we ask, well, can you come up with, we want higher restrictions greater than the state of Tennessee's.
Right.
We want to be more restricted.
Yeah.
Here it is, October going on November, nothing. Just long enough to get Longview to come back in there, get this approved. I was told, maybe this isn't accurate, but I think it might be. Consolidated was going to say no to it because, again, I'll go back to this piece of property on Longview. And I know Commissioner Yockey said she wasn't here to talk about it, yet in the meeting we did discuss it. If you can't put T-post in the ground and you can't run cattle on it, it's probably not a good idea to put 75 houses on it. Because when it's rock like that, let's go to not just sewage, let's go to the way water lays. If it's rock, there's nowhere for the water to go. And by building stuff, you create a runoff situation in a heavy rain. Where's that water going to?
It's got to go somewhere.
On someone else's property, doing damage to them. How can you put one of these in when I was told nothing perked? Then I was told there was 2 perk sites on the whole farm. So in the case of that, how you put a step system in on a piece of property that doesn't have a perk site for it? Because I thought you had to have about at least 5-acre one is what I thought you had to have to put the system in.
Right. It seems like it was a lot less acres on the drawing. So
Yeah,
I don't know what
it seemed less.
I don't know what the measurement
If this
is.
one fails, like in Mount Juliet, let's go back. I mentioned this in the meeting. Was this, and I asked, is this not the company that just failed in Mount Juliet, Wilson County, that's being sued?
Right.
Okay. You've got a creek, a 1/10 of a mile from there, a big creek that all that's going to dump right into. That's not a good idea.
So what did we end up with from the meeting? So
All right,
we've
from the
got a
meeting,
board coming of
We're
some
going to
kind.
and here's the reason I'm going to have to be for it. Obviously, they did not go back and put the restrictions in, so we're going to have a board to do it. We
Right.
got to do something, or you're going to see a Denis or whoever it is putting them in right and left everywhere. So we have to do something.
Yeah, we have to get some kind
We've
of
got to get
increased
some
regulation
kind
in
of
the
an
county.
increased regulation to stop this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll go back and I keep me on topic, but I'm going to go back to something we talked about beforehand.
Yeah.
So as the planning commission, they said, Linda said, well, we had to approve it because we didn't have anything else, and it doesn't come back to the commission.
Right.
Okay. If you have to approve something and you can't vote no on it, it's not coming back to the commission. Is that right?
That's
a question.
That's how the zoning law works currently.
And it keeps the politics out. But a politician appointed everybody, at least the commission and the council, you're elected.
Right.
In this case, you've got politicians appointing people, but we'll go back to the board. And I'll get back on that. Here's the thing about the board. We talked about having a commissioner. Linda suggested a realtor. I really not big on a realtor being on a water board. Now, here's what my thoughts are. Somebody from Shelbyville Power needs to be on this board.
Somebody that knows
wastewater, understands sewer, understands water.
Yeah.
Someone from BCUD.
That would
Someone
make
from
sense,
Duck
yeah.
River, because Duck River, even though they're a power company over in Coffee County at the Normandy facility,
Right.
there's people that work right here in town that work over at that Normandy facility that know all about the sewer going to Tullahoma.
Okay.
So go get people with some knowledge about this.
Yeah. You don't want to just pick your neighbor that doesn't know anything.
Well, no.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to get people in the building business either that just want to prove everything to make money.
Yeah, you don't want rubber stamps.
Because
Yeah.
and some of these boards at times appear to be rubber stamp boards. As several commissioners other than me in this meeting alleged you to.
Right.
You need to hear both sides. So you need a board. You need to look at it individually, but you can't have a board that's made up of 90% yes votes on everything. What's the point of the board?
Right. Yeah. Then they're a rubber stamp.
And it's a
So,
rubber stamp, and that's a problem.
Yeah. What I got out of the meeting was, yes, you guys approved a 7-member board. It seems like the mayor is going to at least make the first round of 7 names. But there was this is the rules committee. There was no definition of any kind of a requirement for these people to have any level of knowledge. There was no standard of who these 7 people had to be.
No.
It's pretty much just
hats off to Mayor
floating
Graham.
out
Mayor
there,
Graham
yeah.
texted me and asked me for suggestions, and I have
Yeah.
given them to him
Yeah. So you
so
gave him
far,
some
and I'm going to
names.
give him some more. And he
Yeah.
is asking, so kudos
Right.
to Mayor Graham.
Yeah.
And I think he's willing to put a board together like we're talking about. I think the mayor's all on board with us. That's not going to
Yeah.
be a problem. But you do need people with some expertise in it.
Yeah. And you did set it to where they're only going to have an initial 1-year term.
1 year. If we
and
don't
then you're
like it
gonna
after a
revisit
year,
it.
we could
Yeah.
do away with it, be done with it, or what
Yeah.
have you. But honestly, you got to do something, or you're going to have these things popping up everywhere.
Yeah, because there's I mean
And the
subdivisions.
state
are coming,
guidelines are so low.
right.
that
Well,
you-
even the state guy.
and the
that
state
came
guy
into
admitted
town
that, right?
said,
He
yeah,
admits
he
your
didn't like his
standards
own
are low.
guidelines.
Right.
Yeah.
The guidelines were too low.
Yeah.
But to have to approve that one out here, to me, I don't know why the state would approve somebody that's in failure and getting in a bunch of lawsuits. So the next question, Commissioner Fair and I both, I think Commissioner Fair even asked this question. Who owns this thing? So here's my fear. You start approving these things and they go bad. The company goes bankrupt.
Right.
The company walks away. Who's liable?
Who's on the hook?
Now, are we liable because we allowed it? Is the planning commission liable? If it goes south, who's
Right.
liable?
Now,
Is it the homeowners association?
yeah, from what seems to be happening in Wilson County right now, the HOA has been on the hook. So, which is why they're suing Adinas.
Right.
But you're right, if Adinas went bankrupt,
What if, or
who
just,
do they have left to sue?
who do you sue?
Yeah.
Because they're going to sue somebody else.
Yeah, because those homeowners can't cover millions of dollars.
And we're going to
in costs.
complain. And next thing we know, we're going to want B-Cud covering this too. Is that what we're going to want? They're not going to do it.
Well, no, they're not. Yeah, they're
No,
not in the
they're not.
wastewater business.
They're not. They don't want to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And that was the fear, I think, of the water board from a lot of us. It sounded okay at first. Then the fear was that this was going to turn into something else,
Right. So,
because history shows us that can happen too.
yeah. Now, it seemed like from the way the meeting wrapped up, you may be looking at names already at the next commission
Yes,
meeting.
we may
Yeah.
be. Yeah, get
Yeah.
something done here pretty quick.
So hopefully you think you're going to have to vote on all 7 at once. Is this going to be a
We'll see.
person at a time
We'll see.
or
We'll see.
depending on,
But
How
hopefully,
strong the board
we're
is.
thinking
Yeah.
Duck River,
yeah,
Shovel Power,
right.
B-Cut,
Yeah. People that know something
know something.
about water and wastewater, preferably wastewater.
And I mean, if you had to have a realtor, I'm going to throw a name out. And he's a friend of mine. I went to high school with him. Todd Davidson would be the guy I would use. And here's why. He is a realtor,
Yeah.
but he's on the board of directors for B-Cut.
So he knows.
So he's on the
utilities.
board. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's a board member.
Right.
But I would also like to have someone actually work there that knew about water.
Sure.
And that's another thing about how does water, and I keep griping about this,
Yeah.
how does it flow? Where does it run off to? And who
Right.
does it affect by doing so?
Yeah.
And the problem out here on that 231 whole corridor that Mr. Vick was alluding to is it's crawfish land, guys. That's what I call it. So much of it's crawfish land that water stands in it.
Right. Yeah.
Then when you go building up on it, the standing water, there's nowhere for it to go, so it washes elsewhere,
It runs off somewhere.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's the fear that I have on all this is what does something do for you to make money? How does it affect me, you, and you that are next door to you making money? I
Yeah.
want you to make money. I'm all for you, but I don't want to do it at the cost
Of your
of someone
neighbors.
else
Sure. Yeah.
and damage their property with water. Because you're
Yeah.
fighting water, you're going to lose every time.
Yeah. Water's going to be undefeated.
And we need to go back, and I'll say this again about floodplains. We've gotten away from that on a few things.
Well, we've had-
Floodplain.
Yeah, we've had that.
There's
I
a
think we
reason
talked
for
about
it.
that on
There's a reason
Coney
for a
Island
flood.
Road last
Well,
week.
not just that one, but there's just some
But
places you
there's
can't
others.
build.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in Bedford County, you have a lot of limestone rock
Yeah.
and places that don't need to be built on. That's why nothing's been done with them.
Right. Yeah. There's a reason. They're
There's
empty.
a reason it's sitting there with
Yeah.
cedar trees and limestone rock everywhere. It's probably not where you want to put a subdivision.
So, speaking of subdivisions,
All right.
let's go on. We had a city planning commission Thursday evening. I'm going to talk about 2 items that were on there. I actually brought pictures today. You're not going to be able to
Good.
see them because you're not
Okay.
seeing the screen. But let's start up on Amos Smith Road. I'm going to start with this one. Let me see if I can get this to work. This was presented to us at the City Planning Commission. This is 63 townhomes on 6 acres on Amos Smith Road. I'll go ahead and spoiler alert, this got deferred because it still has a couple issues with it. I will point out one for those that are watching from home. Those orange things are obviously the buildings.
Mhm.
You've got the driveway, you got the
Right.
road. This is 6 acres, and they presented this to us and said, hey, 2.8 acres of this is open space. So I'm saying 2.8 at 6 acres, that's almost half. And then I looked at the picture and I said, my eyeballs don't see half of that being open space. I see it pretty full of a road and buildings. And so they've got to come back and show us where the open space is. They didn't give us a diagram that showed where it is. I just,
how's the property zoned?
It is zoned correctly. So this is one of those ones where you can't say no if they meet the requirements. So it unfortunately was already R4. So
if you can't say no, let me ask this question. If you can't say no, do you not have a First Amendment right to the word no?
You do have a First Amendment right to the word no. However, we also, as the city, would get sued if it meets the standards and and it gets turned down. Now, if you look at the top left,
don't we have enough townhomes, enough duplexes?
We've got a ton.
Don't we have enough? At what point is it not enough?
Yeah. As long as they keep building them, I guess. Top left corner is the only stormwater area. This is the other issue with this with this particular property. They're wanting to drill what is called an injection well, which I'd never heard of. I got some information. Fortunately, we have a well person on the planning commission, Mr. Landers, so he explained this to us.
Okay.
Drill a big old hole down in the ground and then just have the stormwater feed into the hole. So you've got all your runoff from the property running down into your groundwater at that point. So TDEC has to sign off on that.
And where does that go?
Into the groundwater. I mean, literally underground. So yeah, but if you think about stormwater, that's all the chemicals that were sprayed on the grass. That's all the oil that dripped out of your car onto the asphalt. That's all the stuff that was on the roof. So TDEC has to sign off on that. They had not yet signed off on that injection well. So for that reason, plus the open space, plus they had about 5 other smaller things, we told them come back in a month, get your act together, and we'll reconsider it. So that one will be coming back. I probably will pass at some point. This is the second time they've been told to go back and try again. So
it's zoned R2?
R4. It's already R4, so they can, there's nothing
and
other than
R4 means what?
R4 means high density multifamily housing.
Anyway, y'all can take R4 off the table.
I don't think we're allowed to remove R4. No.
Really?
Yeah, it's there. So but we can raise the standards, which we've done some with that open space, which is part of how this one was able to be held up a little bit. So
what's R3?
R3, well, let's get to
R3.
Let's get to the, there was another piece of property, and we'll bring this one up as well. This is 57 acres. At the end of Richdale Lane, if you can see that on your screens there, it is right at the end of Richdale, just south of the bypass, and it is currently zoned R2, which means single-family homes on 10,000 square foot lots. The request was to rezone it up to R3. R3 means 7,500 square foot lots, but also allows duplexes. So the duplexes have to be on 15,000 square foot lots. So basically all that does for the developer is allows them to put more units in the same amount of acreage. So you got 57 acres here. We looked at it. Everything around it, we got a separate diagram that we're not showing here, but everything around it is R2 already. So that it's already big lots. It's already 10,000 square foot or larger. So it didn't really fit in with the character of the neighborhood that's already there. This also is and this was my argument, this is the very edge of the city. I mean, it's right under the bypass. This is the edge of our utilities. This is the edge of everything. In good planning, if we had good planning of a city, you want to be like a wheel. You want a hub and spokes. You want the center of your city to be higher density.
Yes.
And as you work your way out from the center, the density goes down.
Right.
So by increasing the density on an outer edge, you're hurting your infrastructure, not just your physical infrastructure. Water and sewer have to run all the way down to the water and sewer plant. That's one thing. And they said they could provide. They always say they can provide the utility. But you're also looking at police and fire and all that. They're also having to go further out to get to calls because they're having to go out to that edge of the city.
True.
So we talked about it and we told them no. Well, we did not tell them no. Well, all we can do as a planning commission was an unfavorable recommendation to the city council. The city council will not have this discussion. What was the vote on that? Was it
unanimous or not?
It was not. It was 5-2. So next month at the city council, we'll have this same discussion again about this particular piece of property.
Right.
Do we want R3 up in that area? And they, just in the developer's defense, they presented us a concept plan which didn't look awful. It was a decent neighborhood.
Right.
A lot of the lots were the correct size for R2 already. It just had some that were the smaller 7,500 square foot lots. The issue with approving it is he's not held to that piece of paper he showed us.
Then he could sell it to someone else.
He
who
can
could
sell it
develop
to
put
somebody
duplexes.
else. He could get hit by a truck tomorrow, and you're allowed whatever the worst case scenario is, which in this case for us would be 340 units.
So if we can't
all of-
deny R3
yeah.
and R4, at some point, let's just quit approving it all together and we'll do it that way.
Well, and that's what we did here.
Yes,
So
I
we
think y'all did a
left-
good job.
We left it at R2, which means, and he's more than willing, and well, I say more willing, he's more than able to develop it at R2.
Okay.
The concept he presented us, the handful, or I don't know how many, I asked him for a count. He didn't have a count, but he had some streets that had 7,500 square foot lots. If he removes one out of every 4 of those and splits the difference, there'll be 10,000 square foot lots. They'll comply with R2.
Right.
He could build an R2 neighborhood. He presented us 156 houses. Probably he could get a neighborhood of 140-ish in there at the current zone
Right.
without having to rezone. So,
Gotcha.
and that's what we're asking him to do, or at least the planning commission
Right.
is. City council will have the final say on that. We'll look at that next month
Okay.
and make the decision. So, and really that was the 2 big ones on the city planning commission. I think we've talked enough about water, wastewater, utilities, infrastructure. Let's hear from our sponsors one more time. We'll talk about
Let's
next
do it.
week because we got a big week coming up. So let me find our commercials and we'll be right back.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back. Thank you to Dennis Young and Leverett's Power Washing for sponsoring the show. Let's talk about the upcoming week. I don't know what you got going on, Bill, but I have a full
Boy, it
week
looks like
of meetings this week. Monday evening, this is going to be an interesting one. The city is holding a specially called meeting of the city council and staff to discuss animal control in the city of Shelbyville. We continue to have ongoing issues in the wintertime of dogs being left out in the cold. We get calls from people that are upset. Their neighbor's got a rooster that's crowing at 4 a.m. We get this call and that call. So we're going to have, and this is, I mean, they've had this similar meeting about every other year. They have a meeting like this and just look at all the rules, the regulations, what we're doing good, what we're doing bad, and see if we can't help fix some of these issues. I'm not sure. Some of them, I mean, may just not be fixable. So if you got a neighbor that has a rooster and just won't get rid of it, sometimes it's hard without it just making him disappear or something. So,
and someone who's got an abundance of roosters and that's
Yeah.
all they got. What
Yeah.
you doing with a bunch of roosters?
they're not laying eggs for you.
They're not laying eggs for
They're
you.
not laying eggs. So, but some people like their roosters and they don't want to get rid of them. Tuesday's my big day. I just might as well just sit downtown and not leave. At noon, the IDB board is meeting. I believe they're discussing a pilot program for I'm gonna draw a blank on the because we already approved it at city council, but it's a pilot program for somebody. Century Mold Mold here in town. They're going to be discussing their pilot program, which is a payment in lieu of taxes deal. Tuesday evening, early meeting, 4:15, county finance committee will get together and talk county finances. 5:00, I'll have to leave early from county finance to get to the Shelbyville Power, Water, and Sewer Board meeting. We'll meet at 5:00 on Tuesday evening. And then 7:00 Tuesday evening in the historic courthouse on the square, the County Planning Commission is meeting, and they are supposed to talk subdivision regs in regard to wastewater. So we'll see what their discussion is at that meeting about that. If they talk anything about that board, like what people, maybe some of them have ideas of what people they'd like to have on that board. So that'll be an interesting meeting. Side note on those county planning meetings, and this is one that I know at least one commissioner has been pushing back on. These are not live streamed or recorded. So if you are not in the room, you don't know what happens. So just one, it would
technology's there. Why aren't we doing it?
We're in a room that live streams the other meetings.
They
so
live stream the other ones.
I understand it requires an employee to be there, but it's these as planning gets more and more important.
We have a tech department, do we not?
We do, yeah. There is an IT department.
Several employees too.
Yeah. So, and I know there's, like I said, at least one I know that's been pushing to get these live streamed, because as planning gets more and more important at the county level, the public should know what's going on.
It needs to be that way, and thank goodness these other things are, because so many of these meetings, I know we have budget meetings and your all's meetings,
are
in the middle of the day.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, take somebody like Councilman Betsy Noel, who's got a job. She's in Clarksville.
Right.
It's not a prerequisite that you have to meet in the daytime. The constituents can't be there in the daytime.
Yeah.
At least this way, if you've got it, they can at least watch it.
They can at least watch it later. Yeah. Which, speaking of which, let's get to another meeting. This is the last one. I cannot get to this meeting myself because I have a conflict.
Right.
But Wednesday at noon at the rec center, there is a neighborhood meeting for the developer to present a 289 home PUD at 1029 Horse Mountain Road. And let me tell you the number of complaints I've heard about a Wednesday at noon meeting at the rec center from people. So I
you know who can attend? Government employees and people that are retired.
Yeah.
Because
everybody else is working.
Because everybody else has a job.
And I myself, I can't make the meeting, and this is an important meeting for me. And I've got a conflicting. My wife's got a doctor's appointment. I mean, you can't.
Got to do what you got to do.
So I did actually contact our planning.
You know why
director.
it's done. You know why it's at 12 too.
I do, because
you don't want a lot of people there.
Well, that's the reason.
There's the reason.
I did contact our planning director last night actually and said, "Hey, why is this meeting? And this is an important meeting for people in that neighborhood in particular." And he said the developer picked the time. I said, "Do we not have a rule about that?" He said, "We do not have a rule." I said, "Reach out to the developer, please, and tell him you want to have the neighborhood on your side on development." I said, "This is starting off on a very bad foot to hold your first meeting at noon on a Wednesday." So he's at least going to reach out to the developer and see if they would consider having a second meeting at a more reasonable time. I can't guarantee that that's going to happen. We don't require that apparently, which I think that's something we should fix as the city.
Right.
But they are looking at possibly, and we'll announce that if it happens, getting a second meeting at a time that people could actually attend. Because
I'm gonna tell you, that's a rough road to add another 289 houses on too if you've not been down that road.
It is. I've also heard it backs up to the neighborhood on Idle Drive, and that there are, as you've said about water issues, there are major stormwater issues in that area. This is one that David and I talked about this about a month ago. It also requires a sewer pumping station, which is going to pump all the sewage across our city park, HV Griffin Park, over to Fairfield Pike is the only way to get the sewage down to the sewage plant. So this one has a lot of moving parts, and I'm sure the neighbors are going to have some things to say.
I bet they are too.
Hopefully we'll get a meeting at a reasonable time. And again, I can't even make the new meeting, so I won't know what goes on at that one. And that's another one not live streamed. So if you miss the meeting, you miss whatever happens. So we'll keep pushing on that and county planning. Hopefully we can get more of this live, because I think it is important for people to be able to see what's going on,
especially if you're doing it in the middle of the day while everybody's at work.
Right. Yeah. It should at least be recorded so they can go back and watch or something. So with that, I think that's all. Unless you got something else you want to say, I think that's all we got to say for this week. I think hopefully Mr. Buc-ee's will be back off the road next week, and it'll be David and I, and we'll have more of the news that matters at same place, same time, same channel, right here on Shelbyville Now. Just come back and see us.